Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
Hello, RailCats fans, and welcome back to another edition of the RailCats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Carlos Rincon, and this one may be a bit of a lengthy one because in the course of my last podcast, which was about, two-ish, 3 weeks ago, I had a terrible cough that just wouldn't go away, so I couldn't record anyways. I'm still kind of battling that, but I'm hopefully to be able to get through all of this without coughing a bunch. But in the course of that, we had where the All-Star game was announced, the schedules came out. I was in the middle of wrapping up the 2023 season with like stats leaders and just kind of running down through all of the stats, and then we had 5 signings, so this one may be a bit of lengthy. I was thinking about maybe just kind of splitting it up and doing one week or a handful of days in succession, but I just think with everything kind of coming together, just kind of make it a little bit longer than I normally would. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and wrap up the 2023 season stats. Not saying, I'm officially putting like a seal on the season, but basically just kind of wrapping it up and just kind of going from what the overall team stats were like and individual leaders in some areas here. So some of these coughs I'll obviously edit out once I get through them. So on looking here, the team record was 41-58, which was 6th in the East Division, and last place in the entire league, 2.5 games behind Winnipeg in last place. And I know normally when I'm reading these stats and stuff like that, I'm able to look and look at you, but the issue is that my computer decided, my graphics card on my computer decided to take a poop. So I only have one monitor instead of the 2 monitors. I still have to work that get fixed. So I'm looking at my only monitor that's working. So I didn't want to mess with the camera angles too much because I just didn't want to deal with it. So that's why maybe a little bit off. But anyways, going from there, May record was 10-8. June was 9-18. July was 10-13. August was 10-17. And September was 2-2. Really in that May area, we were, kind of expecting it to be, a playoff caliber team all season long, really, until probably into August, where it kind of really started to slip away for the RailCats as far as that, and just kind of seeing the fight kind of fade a little bit. I mean, it basically until the last 2 weeks of the year, the RailCats were in it, but I mean, that's ultimately what you're deciding anyways. Is there's only 4 teams on 8 teams are going to make it in the playoffs and 4 teams aren't, so the bottom 4 are basically going to be in it unless they're just having a really off year. And we'll spend countless of weeks. I mean, I think we're basically now just less than 6 months anyways to beginning of the well, not quite. Well, maybe we're exactly at 6 months. I think the first game is May 11th. So we are exactly at the point of recording this is November 11th on Veterans Day. That the home, or not the home opener, but the season opener against the Dogs comes to fruition on that portion of it. But I'm just saying that I think this was, we were very hyped going into this year, and it just didn't work out the best way. Normally a season would be 100 games. The RailCats only played 99 because the Kansas City game on July 16th was canceled. I know they think the first game was canceled and they turned into a doubleheader. I know that was just like a terrible week for rain, and it was kind of funny because I was thinking to myself, really up to that point, the weather really wasn't affecting the RailCats in any sort of way. I mean, even early on in the early May portion of it, you get some rain and stuff like that, making some rain delays here and there, but there really wasn't much until really after that July. And after July is kind of when that all kind of came about, was those kind of issues. I know there was Sioux City, I think, had a couple issues. I know we had a couple rains here. I know we beat the Dogs in a rain-shortened game at the Steel Yard, that kind of stuff. I think it was right around the time when the new owner took over on that portion of it. But looking here at the offensive stats, the RailCats were last in runs with 457. Hits, they were 10th at 185. 884 hits, not 184, 845 hits. Doubles last, 142 hits. Triples tied for first at 23. Home runs last, 64, which is a big drop off from last year. When I'll get in. Let me finish this, and I'll get in the discussion when I want to. Last in RBIs at 417. Walks last, 327. Strikeouts. They struck out there. So the way that I had this set up was I took the least amount of strikeouts. So they were fourth in that category. So they were in top 5 of the least amount of strikeouts at 728. Stolen bases, fifth, 143. Caught stealing, 11th at 40, which was a high number because I still did the lowest, and that's still pretty high. Caught stealing, 40. On base percentage was 11th at 338. Slugging last, 317. Batting average 9th, 258. OPS last at 713. So, really looking at it, and this kind of helped when I go through the pitching. You're going to see not so many like last, but you're going to see, in that middle to 11th, the 10th, the 9th and 8th, a lot of that range. And, really talking to Ryan Zimmerman about the year, really how the pitching staff kind of held it together again. I mean, last year, I think, at the beginning half of the year, it was the pitching staff really held the team together until the offense caught up. But then once the offense caught up, the pitching wasn't quite there. And I think this year the pitching was more stout than when we really give it credit for. I think the offense lacked in some areas. I don't even know. I think the offense was coming later in the innings, but the deficit sometimes was too much, or the rally was too late. But I mean, when you look at how many in the key categories that you're last in, runs are last, home runs last, RBIs last, like those are your key areas that you want to be in, especially the RBIs is a huge one. I mean, even hits your 10th, but this was just showing that this team's ability lacked in the producing of runs. They couldn't drive anyone home. I mean, they, batting average, what I said, it was 9th. I mean, that's not playoff, average to make yourself into the playoffs at that 8th spot, but your batting average is really good, but everything else is just lacking. It just showed there was no ability to get those people across, and that was the big issue, I think, with the hitting last year, was the ability to be productive when runners are on base. So getting into the pitching here, they gave up, they were 8th in runs given up at 574. Earned run average, they tied at 7th with 507. So I mean, really, if you're just looking at those numbers, the runs and the earned runs, I mean, that they're that playoff cutoff kind of area, that's kind of important as well, to realize that, maybe not necessarily the pitching staff was as bad as we kind of seemed to made it out to be. I just think that sometimes the deficits were so big and the rallies were so late and the scores were so close that you kind of looked at it and you said, maybe it was the pitching the issue. And I think we turned a blind eye to actually how well this pitching staff actually produced. So that's a big change in my perspective of really how lacking the offense was this year, which was kind of a disappointment because really we thought it was going to be higher, and it didn't change. It kind of got worse. But then walks, they were 10th at 439, wild pitches 11th at 78. Batters hit, I didn't have, they hit 79, that I didn't rank that one. Strikeouts, they were 6th at 775. Saves, they were 8th. I didn't write down how many saves they had. Long night, I had writing that stuff down. Home runs given up 104. whip 11th of 1.6, slugging 10th, 431. Shutouts, they were tied for 4th with 3, but there was like 5 other teams that tied with them. So when you just kind of look at the list in general, they're at 9th. So debate amongst yourself how you want to rank that one. Batting average against was 9th at 271. ERA was 10th at 532. Then looking at the fielding, they were 10th in fielding at a 974, and they were 10th. They were 11th in the league with 90. So obviously when I did the list, it was who had the least amount, so they were almost dead last in that. So when it comes to lack of offense and fielding percentage not being very high, it doesn't, those are two bad things in this situation. Two bads don't make a right. So I think that really hurt in that aspect. If you're looking at team leaders, batting average, Gio Diaz led that at a 319. Home runs, Francisco Del Valle had 10. Jesus Mariaga's RBIs didn't save. So let me go pull up point streak real quick, because for some reason it didn't want to save on why when I wrote it down, and now you're not gonna. These point streak is going to be the death of me. I swear. Every time I try to use point streak, it's a terrible. I wish they would really just update it. It would make my life just easier if it was some other kind of platform. But just looking here, he had 66 RBIs. DJ Wilkinson had 7 wins. Harrison Francis led the team in strikeouts with 87, and then DJ Wilkinson had ERA of 274. When your closer is your best reliever and has the most wins, it just kind of shows that. Now, I don't think necessarily that the starting pitching lacked the ability to win. I think it was just a lack of offensive production in the earlier parts of the year, or the earlier parts of the game, and when those starters got kicked out, they were either tied or losing at that point, so they weren't going to really get the win necessarily. So I think it was just one of those that with DJ Wilkinson being a closer and being the most dominant arm in the bullpen, you kind of expect him to get those kind of situations. So that just kind of wraps up the general idea of what happened in 2020 with the stats. I mean, you can take them for what they are. I know numbers can just be numbers, and everyone can have their own opinions on how it felt or how the season felt themselves. But I've really been kind of marinating in the season on the course of the off season. And I know there was a point in the season. I still think this is a point that I've kind of wanted to get off my chest a little bit. Is there was a point where everyone was up in arms about Lamar Rogers, and it's still kind of up in arms a little bit. I think there are some fans that are still disappointed in the way that the team played. But at the same time, and I get when you look at both avenues of this, when you have a new manager to a league, and I know he's not necessarily new to the idea of independent ball. Obviously, he was with the St. Paul Saints, but really his management came in affiliated ball, where there was players that were just kind of given to him, and now he has to kind of go out and get these players. Ultimately, in this league, when you go out to get a player, you are expecting, once you get them, to be successful in what you're getting out of them. And when we looked at the roster, right, we really had high hopes for everyone on this team. And I really think the lack of production of home runs that weren't successful. LG didn't have his best year. I think if we're being blatantly honest, and I know it may make some people upset, but we were having really high hopes for him, and he came through in some areas, but sometimes he was more under the radar than he was noticeable. So I think in those situations, and I don't think the team as a whole always clicked all together. And I think there was that split. Obviously, you had the issue with Michael Woodworth, and you had Lingua leave, you had Sheik's leave, you had some injuries here and there. I just think that this year was just a big hyped year where I don't think the players produced the way they should have. And it's easy to point fingers because we want to love, when we watch professional sports, we want to love the players and we hate everyone else. Umpires suck, referees suck, coaches are terrible, GMs don't know what they're doing. We only care about what the players are doing, and it's not the players' fault, it's the coach's fault or the GM fault. I know in this situation it's a little bit different, but there's got to be a point in time where you have to be able to look at the players themselves and hold them a bit accountable for the way that they're playing. And I think Lamar Rogers is respected through most of independent ball. And I have a hard time saying that all of this, now some of the stuff that I would say is how should I say it? Some of this isn't. I don't know how I'm putting the word. How I want to describe the way I want to word this. It's hard to judge a coach, especially in this league. I would say just because you don't get the coverage you would in an affiliated team or a major league team. You don't get the players being outspoken to what their concerns are, or anything else like that. That just doesn't happen. And I'm trying to work towards that, trying to open up the avenues to get a better understanding, because everyone that I've talked to and everything that I've listened around, Lamar Rogers is, I feel like he's respected and he's liked. And we also got to understand the situation that we're in. We're in Gary, okay? A lot of people don't find Gary to be safe. And I guarantee you, and it's a bit to maybe, maybe the pressure's a little bit more, on Lamar Rogers because maybe he's making more money just because he's in Gary. So, I mean, we don't know what the situation necessarily is going to be, but this is a very tough market to play in, to coach in, to be fans in, and realistically, because it's Gary. And this podcast is the one to help the RailCats maybe get more fans, to do something that I want to do on the side of being a hobby. But understanding that just because it's in Gary doesn't mean it's a bad place to go. I think the height of the issues that was going on in Gary are kind of a little bit over. I know we've had some issues. There were some issues, before the season started. I know the graduations. Was that last year? I think that happened last year, the year before. It's a very different. It's very difficult, and I know I'm kind of going off a little bit of track here. What I'm trying to get to, but I just think looking at last season, I think the biggest mistake that Lamar Rogers really made was at the end of the 2021 season, he resigned, or not resigned, but opened the options to all the players. And he limited himself to maybe getting some of the players that he actually wanted. He kind of handcuffed himself to a certain extent. And I think that was just a bit of what the RailCats brought at the end of the year, last year, the talent that they had, that everyone kind of came together and clicked, and he saw this vision, and it just didn't come out that way. We started out and we just kind of, well, I guess we didn't start out flat on our faces. We were, we were really good, and then just kind of all slipped from there. And I think the hype around Gary was real, but eventually it turns itself to, okay, this hype, there's a huge hype, and nothing comes of it. Is it the manager, or is it the players that you eventually have to blame? And I'm not saying that you can't look at both sides and say there was just an issue on both sides. There was. I mean, you obviously saw an old regime taken out, a new regime coming in, and some of the players in the old regime might not have been taking in what the new regime was saying, and it just kind of causes some toxicity in the locker room. And maybe that's what we boil this down to. Maybe we just look at this year and we just forget about it and say, you know what, this is a wash year, a change of guard. It just didn't come the way it needs to be. So, you need to look this year. We get a new owner. There's going to probably be some changes in the front office. I'm not sure. I know there's already one change that's happened, I believe. So we're just going to be interesting to see what happens in the front office aspect of it and where it kind of goes from there. So kind of pushing 2023 to the side, we're going to look at 2024 and look at the 5 new signings that have happened over the course of the last handful of weeks. Starting off the month strong, we signed Nate Alexander on November 1st, a right-handed relief pitcher, 27 years old, 6'4", 205 pounds, from Lake Jackson, Texas, drafted by Miami Marlins in the 24th round in the 2018 draft. He went to the University of Texas at San Antonio. He played 1 year of rookie ball, 1 year single A, and for the past season he's been in independent ball with Juliet, New York, Missoula, and last year with Boise in the Pioneer League. Last year in Boise, he had a 2-1 record, ERA of 3.09, played in 27 games, pitched in 43.2 innings. He had 9 saves, gave up 44 hits, 19 runs, 15 which were earned, 3 home runs. He walked 14, struck out 46. He had a whip of 1.328 hits per 9, 9.1 home runs per 9, 9.6 walks per 9, 2.9 strikeouts per 9, 9.5. Looking at his overall stats from the past 6 years or seasons, he pitched in 251 innings, had 12 saves. He had a record of 11-13, an ERA of 4.10. He played in 151 of those games, pitching in the 251.1. Hits per 9, hits per 9 of 8.4, home runs per 9.9, walks per 9 of 9.3. Lamar Rogers had this to say about Nate Alexander, quote, "Nate comes to the RailCats after being on the top bullpen arms in the Pioneer League last season. He also said he averaged 96 to 98 miles per hour while posting an impressive strikeout to walk percentage of 3.29 during the season. Nate will be a welcome addition to the RailCats bullpen," unquote. What I take away from that is, well, I would say that Lamar Rogers probably took one of the best players batting average wise of the Pioneer League last year in Gio Diaz, and he turned out to be great. And I don't see an issue with it at all. And now he brings in probably one of the best bullpen arms from the Pioneer League. And, you could argue on the flip side that the Pioneer League numbers are inflated. And you could say his ERA at what I said overall, or what he did last year in the Pioneer League. Yeah, 309. It could be brought down to a 250 or maybe a 2 and compete with DJ Wilkinson if DJ Wilkinson doesn't get picked up somewhere, which I'm surprised he hasn't. Maybe it'll come a little bit later into the season or before the season starts. But the one thing that I can say about Lamar Rogers is, it's ironic because he's not a pitching guy, he's a batting guy, that he's really brought in really solid pitchers. I don't think really anyone could argue, maybe starting's a little bit different, But relief guys, I mean, I really think he's brought in really good people. You see Audi Nunez really well. Julio Vivas, when he's in the bullpen, outstanding. I mean, the starting this year was a little bit rocky here and there, but bullpen great. DJ Wilkinson, uh, one of the best pitchers in the league. Yohan Valdez, another great pitcher. I think he's finding these people that are tall, lengthy's got some, got some weight to him, and it can throw a little bit hard, but the walks are a big issue. But what I'm saying is some of the guys he brings in, the walks are the issue, but he looks like he has a guy that has an arm that can throw strikes, that is going to be effective in the bullpen, where you may have a potential another solid seventh, eighth, ninth, maybe even a sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. I mean, you could look at, if Julio Vivas comes back, you're looking at potentially a Julio Vivas in the sixth, Yohan Valdez in the seventh. Your pick a choice. It could be Nate Alexander, or it could be DJ Wilkinson in the eighth, or vice versa in the ninth. I think that's just something you need. And not obviously he's going to bring in more pitchers and relief pitchers, and he's bringing in a couple guys that are those hybrids that can start and relief at the same time, which is something that I think he enjoys doing. He might have this 4-man rotation with the fifth day being a bullpen guy, and he really relies on that. As you saw, he kind of strictly stayed to that situation in a couple of times in double headers where a game got canceled or whatever the case may be, but it still leveled itself out, where if you just did a normal rotation, the guy that was slotted to pitch, 3 days in advance would still be able to pitch, but you still saw him use that bullpen arm, just for example of like Harrison Francis and Edward Cuello in that situation. You have a doubleheader and you have Harrison Francis pitching first, and instead of going with the second guy in the rotation of Edward Cuello, you use a bullpen day, and then that next series that starts 2 days later, then you use Edward Cuello. It's just as an example. It looks like he's having a couple of those guys that he's going to bring in that can do that as well. But I really think Alexander is going to be a bullpen arm. I don't think you're going to see him start very much. I think that's another solid piece of the bullpen, and you can never have a good enough pitching. If your pitching's dominant and it's going to give you, let's just say for the sake of the league, if the pitching staff gives up 4 runs a game, 3 to 4 runs, you should win, I would say 75% of your games. And if you win 75% of your games, obviously you win. Let's lower that a little bit more. Let's go a nice 60. All right, if you score 4 runs, 3 or 4 runs a game, you should win about 60. And no one scored 60, or no one won 60 games this year. So I would say that's probably nice even, 60% of your games you should win. So I think that's a nice evenish number to kind of roll with. So I think if you're having the dominant arms, or your starting pitching may just not have it. You see that a handful of times where pitchers go maybe 2 or 3 innings, they just don't have it, and you have a strong bullpen that can muster you through the rest of the game, which kind of I think would relieve some of the stress off the starting pitchers, which we kind of saw not in the 2023 season but the 2022 season. Was I think there was so much pressure on that starting rotation that eventually they cracked after the All-Star break, and I just think it'll relieve some of that stress. And if they're just able out there to be able to go out there and play baseball, team is going to be that much better to deal with. And so I apologize right now if I screw anyone's names up, just because it's kind of new-ish, and I haven't heard the name. Sometimes when I hear the names over and over, it kind of gets a little bit better because of the correct pronunciation. So I don't really, that stuff probably won't come until either I talk to someone, if I talk to Lamar Rogers in the off season, or once the season starts up. Hopefully, if it's Ryan, I'll talk to Ryan before the season starts, and if they're on the team, that I'll be able to get the names of them before I really get it. So I'm gonna go with Tai Tiedemann is what I'm gonna go with next. He signed November 1st, right-handed pitcher from Lakewood, California. He's 27 years old. He is 6'6", 195 pounds. He was drafted by the Texas Rangers in the 8th round of the 2016 draft from Long City Beach. He played in six seasons in the minors, reaching Double-A twice in 2021 and 2022. 1 season in rookie ball, fall ball, 1 season in rookie ball and fall rookie ball, plus 3 seasons in fall and fall ball. Looking at last year with Spire City, who is now sitting out this year in the Atlantic League, which is a very interesting story. And if you want to hear more about those kind of interesting, go back and listen to the Indie Ball Report on Spotify or Beanpot or wherever you listen to. They always are talking about. That's an interesting situation with the Atlantic League, which makes me really glad that the American Association is starting to I would personally say that I think the American Association is the best ran league. Not saying maybe not the best talent, but best ran league in the in all of independent ball. So there's always a positive to look on that side of it, and I think they're just starting to get a little bit better and better and better and better throughout the course of that. But anyways, yeah, that's an interesting subject on a team that just got like a name change and marketing and all this, and they're sitting out a year. So I think Tiedemann is one of those guys that just kind of in the dispersal just kind of like, all right, I guess I'll go somewhere else. But looking at it, he played in 9 games, pitched 12 innings, had an ERA of 8.24, 8.225, giving up 17 hits, 11 runs, all earned, 2 home runs, 13 walks, 6 strikeouts, a whip of 2.5 hits per 9, of 12.8 home runs per 9, of 1.5 walks per 9, of 9.8, and strikeouts per 9, 4.5. Looking at his overall career stats, 8 seasons, he was 23-17 with a 4.63 ERA in 154 games played. He played in 154 games. He pitched in 350 innings. He started in 39. He had 3 saves, a whip of 1.58, home runs per 9, or hits per 9 of 10, home runs per 9 of 0.8, walks per 9 of 4.3, and strikeouts per 9 of 6.9. Lamar Rogers had this to say about Tai. Tai comes to Gary after receiving positive feedback from the Texas Rangers organization. He's a big body experienced pitcher who has a career winning record since signing with the Rangers back in 2016. He has both a starter. He's been both a starter and reliever, and I'm excited to welcome Tai to the RailCats team. Do I love his numbers? No. But is this a guy that I think Lamar Rogers typically goes for? Yes. He is probably going to remind me a lot of potentially an Adi Nunez, who's a big guy. His control's not quite there. He gave up a lot of hits. It may take him a minute to adjust to the league, and once he does, he's probably going to be dominant, or he won't. But this is the beauty of the beast is I don't think Lamar Rogers wants to handcuff himself to a situation of getting on people he may not necessarily feel comfortable with, and the more people he's going to bring on, the better off. And I think what we're going to see is we're probably going to see maybe more pitchers than we are fielders on this year's roster. And I think what he wants to narrow it down to, I want to have that competition in the bullpen or in the starting rotation to really see what's going to happen. I think Tai is going to be that guy that maybe if Julio Vivas doesn't come back, he's going to be that guy who's going to be both a starter and reliever if need be, or however he's going to fall into that role. So I think that competition is going to be there. I think that this guy kind of fits the mold of the both starter and reliever. So it's just going to be interesting to see. And obviously he has the Double-A, Single-A experience. That's going to be good for the RailCats. Looking here at Andres Noriega, he signed on November 6th, a catcher from Colombia. He is 22 years old, 6'1", 212 pounds, and bats right and throws right. He was a free agent signing of Los Angeles Dodgers in 2017. Andres reaches AAA in 21, but only played one game where he went over 3 and struck out. Once he played in 7 games in AA, 29 games in rookie ball, and played in Sioux Falls in 2022, where he played in 18 games, had a batting average of 230, 3 home runs, and 8 RBIs. Looking at the 2022-2023 season in the Colombian Winter League, he played on 2 teams. He played in 22 games, had 61 at-bats with a batting average of 191, on-base percentage of 262, slugging of 266, OPS of 529, scored 4 runs, 12 hits, 2 doubles, 1 home run, 9 RBIs, 5 walks, and 15 strikeouts. Looking at his overall career stats, he played in 206 games, had 650 at-bats, scored 76 runs, 152 hits, 23 doubles, 1 triple, 77 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, caught stealing twice, walked 49 times, struck out 152 times. And I don't have, for some odd reason, I do not have his home runs on here. And I don't know why I don't have his home runs on here, because we want to know. I know his home runs are really impressive. So I dropped the ball on that one. I wrote it down, and then I just didn't type it. I don't know why. Let's see here. Looking at all levels, he had just 12 home runs. I thought it was more impressive than that, but he only has 12 home runs, so I left that out somewhere. It is what it is. It happens. Batting average of 234, OPS or on base percentage of 310, slugging 328, OPS of 632. Lamar Rogers said this about Noriega: he is best known for his defensive prowess and his strength with a team. Has been his. I'm reading this wrong. Hold on. He is best known for his defensive prowess, and his strength with a team has been his ability to work with the pitching staff, block, receive, and throw. That is a huge indicator right there. I think this is what Lamar Rogers is looking for, is someone who has that experience in with the affiliated ranks. He's young, but he has a great defensive ability, and I think that's something that might have hurt the RailCats last year. Was sometimes it seemed like I think the tandem really next year is probably going to be Noriega and Cadell. I really think that's going to be the aspect of what we're looking at. I think Thomas Gridley is the one that is out. And it sucks to say that he is. I really do like him, and I really like his ability to be able to play defensively, and he has a nice consistent bat where Cadell just kind of got hot at certain aspects. But when we were talking to Ryan, Lamar really leaned on him because he had that triple. He had that affiliated experience, and the pitchers like working with him. And that's something that sometimes we don't get to understand, because especially being an independent league where there's not that kind of coverage, you don't get that insight to what is going on. Because if we're going to be realistic, for those that listen to this podcast and follow me and follow the team, one, thank you. 2, if I wasn't doing this, how many people would actually know what's kind of going on? I know that there's people that are host families that can probably, that's where I get a lot of my information from. Uh, but is there going to be, that kind of knowledge going through the entire fan base and not just a select group? I would say there's still a select group that obviously listen to this podcast. Not every person that goes to the stadium or half follows the RailCats know about this podcast. I mean, it's not that well known, and that's fine. I mean, it's still in the infancy. We just got done with year 2. Like it's okay. Like we get everything figured out, and we'll be perfectly fine. But I'm just saying, now knowing what we have learned from this season that we didn't know in the first season in 2021 with Lamar Rogers is what he's looking for. And I think we figured what he looks, and now we're seeing the players that he's being able to pick up and really understand what he wants, and listening to his words and what he's saying. This is a big part of it, is right here. The AAA experience, they got that experience, and they want to know, or he wants the pitchers to feel comfortable with the catchers calling the game necessarily. Going on to a guy that I really think has high potential to be another great bullpen arm, Julio Pinto, signed on November 6th, the free agent from the Kansas City Royals. He played in 27 games, or not 27, got all kind of mixed up. He's 27 years old. He is 6'3", 222 pounds. Is a right-handed pitcher. He also played with the Cincinnati Reds organization. Julio played in 14 innings in AAA, 64 innings in AA, 107 innings in Single A, and 159 in rookie ball, and 54 in rookie fall ball. Looking at his affiliated stats, he had a record of 29-32, an ERA of 5.71. In 463 innings. He played in 231. He started in 56. Most of the starts came early in his career. His last start was in 2017, where he had 18 saves, gave up 46 home runs, walked 296, struck out 439. He had a whip of 1.68, hits per 9 of 9.4, home runs per 9 of 0.09, walks per 9 of 5.8, and strikeouts per 9 of 8.05. And then Lamar Rogers had to go on and say about Pinto: Julio provides a veteran AAA arm with experience both as a starter and reliever. We will be leaning on his experience to play a vital role with our RailCats pitching staff, and I'm excited for him to welcome the roster. I think, was this the guy that I tweeted about? Sometimes I forget half the people that I tweet about when I was looking. I think it was him. Let me double check that real quick. Yeah, Julio Pinto was the guy that I was looking for. I think that, you look at his numbers, and, all of his numbers are basically in the affiliated ranks. And being able to play, a handful of innings in AA, which realistically a lot of people say is the AAA, is the next step before the MLB, but I think the AA is where they kind of really tell you that that's where the true nature of the beast. A lot of the prospects go to AA, and then they skip AAA and go to the Major League, which sometimes doesn't make any sense to me, but I mean, I kind of get to a certain extent. But being that veteran guy, being someone who's a starter and reliever, and he's gonna probably be put in a role to mentor some of the younger pitchers in the staff and whoever we're bringing on. So this is going to be huge. I really think his numbers are going to be very good with the RailCats, and maybe his journey. I think, I think Lamar Rogers is obviously bringing on a bunch of guys that are a little bit older to the roster and have that nice mixture of older and younger, because the RailCats were really, really young last year. And I think they really need that nice balance, and I think Lamar Rogers is finding that balance. So I think Julio has that potential to really find himself in a use a lot. There's a lot of these players, a lot of these pitchers that's on the staff that'll be able to start and relief at the full time. So this is what we want. This is what Lamar Rogers wants. I don't think we're looking at a traditional bullpen or a traditional starting rotation, a traditional bullpen. I think he really is going to rely on the bullpen, and that's what the short, quick matchups to go from there. So it's going to be interesting to see what we're going to go with here. To the next guy, Carlos Rincon. I think I'm going to go with that. Probably not right. 26 years old, a free agent signing of the Los Angeles Dodgers in 2015. He was traded to the New York Mets in 2021. He's an outfielder who bats and throws right. He is 6'2", 238 pounds, from the Dominican Republic. He played in 6 seasons of affiliated ball. He played 39 games in AAA. He had 32 hits, 5 home runs, 13 RBIs, a batting average of .218. He played in 179 games in AA. He had 156 hits, 32 home runs, 97 RBIs, and a batting average of .246. He played in 237 games at Single A. He had 131 hits, 46 home runs, 131 RBIs, and a batting average of .243. This is the guy that I'm thinking of that has that unbelievable power. I think Carlos could potentially be. I know this was a concern of Paulie's, and I'm sitting there thinking about it. Maybe, just maybe, Carlos isn't going to be an outfielder. Potentially, he may be a DH role. So we might not lose really anyone out of the outfield necessarily. But it's going to be interesting to see. We might have a DH role, and this might be that guy that's going to solidify that role. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that. That's going to be a matchup to look for, is the catching in the outfield, and seeing how many more people get brought on here as well. Looking at his minor league career, he played in 521 games. He had 1,882 at-bats, 276 runs, 460 hits, 102 doubles, 3 triples, 99 home runs, 303 hits, 26 stolen bases, and got caught stealing twice, or not twice, 100 times, or 10 times. He had a batting average of .244, an on-base percentage of .322, slugging .466, OPS of .788, and walked 197 times. Lamar Rogers had this to say about Rincon: once a top prospect in the New York Mets organization, Carlos provides a big bat, potentially having clubbed 20 plus home runs several times during a season over his 7-year career. His multiple seasons in AA and AAA provide value experience to our maturing RailCats lineup. A lot of new faces, a lot of older players that is coming to this team. We'll obviously get more in the depth of what we're going with here. So, I'm just looking here. Yeah, we're pushing an hour. So I just want to kind of get through more of this stuff. This is just kind of like the face value of the news that's kind of coming in, and we'll obviously dissect it more and more. We have 6 months to dissect all this stuff. So on November 7th, the RailCats partnered with Tixer, which is the official ticket hub for the RailCats. Instead of e-ticket, it's now Tixer. That's what I'm going with. It's TIXR. It's kind of like Mixler, so I'm gonna kind of Tixer. That's such a weird, doesn't roll off the tongue very well. The one thing that I've noticed so far is that you can create your own profile. Obviously, the tickets aren't up there yet, so I don't know how they're going to switch all that stuff around. I know what the fans really wanted, especially getting season passes. I don't mind having to go into every game and choosing my seat. That wasn't the issue. The issue was that I had to keep putting my email address down, my phone number, my name, my address. It just seemed like I just wish it would be a nice, simple, easy copy and paste, fill out my thing. It's season passes. Like, I'm not expecting to get the same seats, which I basically had the same seats all year because no one ever sat in those seats anyways, or we just sat in those seats and no one told us to move because they didn't, because this plenty of room to go sit. But that's beside the point. I think, I guess I'll get into, so they're the first team to do this with Tixer. They are the official sponsor of the American Association, so I'm kind of surprised that the RailCats are the first one to go with this one. I thought maybe there'd be more people that would jump on the opportunity too, so it's gonna be interesting to see. RailCats GM Anthony, he said this about the new deal: Tixer is the most user-friendly, intuitive platform available anywhere, and I cannot wait for our fans to embrace this digital experience. Tixer's vice president of sports also commented on the deal, Nate Lieberman. He said the RailCats have been a staple of Northwest Indiana and Gary, and we hope to continue to honor that relationship by offering fans a seamless and friendly ticketing experience. Tixer is an American company out of Santa Monica, California. It's top 25 on the market list. Top 25 on the market list of top 100, and fourth on the list of the other ticket services. So on that list, there are 100 people, 100 different businesses on there. They are fourth on that list of other ticket providers. They are behind Viagogo, SeatGeek, Game Time, and Fever. Tixer is also partnered with the Portland Trailblazers G League team, the International Tennis Hall of Fame, Mercer University, which is a Division I NCAA school. There's plenty more. There's the whole thing on them. I really think this is a good thing. I think it took some of the burden off of the teams themselves, and are able to put this stuff on a platform to make a smooth, easier transition, which obviously what they want. So that's going to be huge. I really think that is something to kind of keep in mind of the situation on that. It's gonna be interesting to see. I should go from there. I don't know how that's all gonna wrap itself up, but we shall see. So obviously they announced that where the All-Star game is this year. I'm trying to pull all of I had it pulled up, and then the schedule and all that. Kansas City, which I'm still thinking my wife might be convinced to go to Kansas City for the All-Star break, which is July 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. I really, 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 really wish they would put those on a weekend. A Friday, Saturday, Sunday event. I really think that's where they should go with this. I think you would get a lot more people to go to those if they're not in the back. That's what's going to make it difficult to for some people, because realistically, in my sense, if they did it on, even if they did a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I would be able to just take off 4 days of work, because we would obviously drive down, Thursday or Thursday night into Friday, do the festivities, blah blah, that kind of stuff. It would just be a tad bit easier. But yet again, being in Kansas City, I don't know what the Royals schedule would look like. So I don't know if they're trying to work around that. I don't know what the MLB's All-Star break is well, so I don't know if they're just still trying to kind of work around that. I know sometimes it mirrors it, or is a little bit before, a little bit after. Sometimes I wish it would just be on the weekend, because I just really think you would get a lot more fans out there. I'm looking from a fan perspective. It's easier to travel. I mean, if you're coming from anywhere, you might as well just take the whole week off or whatever the case may be. But it's just easier for people that want to make it just like a long weekend for it to be on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday versus a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The one thing I am happy about this year is that obviously they're playing Chicago at Chicago on a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday. So it's going to make it a lot easier for me to say, hey, let's go to Rosemont and go to a game out there. I really think they should be able to play. Oh, and they also do it in August as well. So awesome. That's even better. I was concerned if they were going to do it again. August the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. They also play them as well. So that's awesome. I know there was I think we only play Sioux City once. I know there's a lot of like interesting complications to the schedule this year, and I don't necessarily know why they did it, why they just don't do how they have been. That just doesn't make any, and the only way that would make sense if they want to have more um individual games, to maybe like you play, this year you play Kansas City at home for 3 games, and then next year you would play at Kansas City for 3 games. Like I can understand if you're going to offset it that way, but I just, some of it just doesn't quite make any sense. I'm just trying to see here because like you play Sioux Falls twice, 3 there, 3 back. I think it's Sioux City that we're only gonna see once, and it's at home. But we're not gonna see Sioux City at Sioux City, which is kind of confusing to me in that aspect. Looking here, and then we play Winnipeg 7 times at Winnipeg. Like that doesn't make any sense. We know we play Winnipeg 3 times at home, but that's what I'm saying. You take out Sioux City to replace it with Winnipeg. I that doesn't make any sense. This year's schedule makes. I thought last year's schedule was terrible. This year I think it's worse. I don't know who made this schedule, but I think it's absolutely. I know there's a lot of them around that, like they're playing 9 times. What I think it's absolutely horrendous. I think I don't understand why you're going to play a team, out of your division more times than it should just be 6 and 6 or 6 in total, 3 and 3 either way, or you just make it 3 times you face them and have more in your division, which I wouldn't mind. I really wouldn't mind if they did more in division because you're really playing inside of your division. I think that you get through majority of the other leagues is you play inside your division more times, and you're playing inside your division more times than not. But I think if you had a nice, like, I don't know, 70-30 kind of deal. I don't know how the math would all work itself out on that portion of it. I'm just saying that would be something interesting as well. I know you still got the promotionals that are going on. Then all the promotional schedule isn't out. It looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Friday games. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 firework nights. And we get 3 of them in a row in July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And I kind of like that the 4th this year isn't a double header. There is the double header. Think. I'm trying to. Where was it at? I thought it was earlier. Oh, the Sioux Falls. Sioux Falls double header. I believe that is Memorial Day. Against Sioux Falls at home. It looks like there's only one scheduled doubleheader this year, which I don't mind that at all. double headers can be kind of ticky tacky with that kind of stuff. It looks like they have 2 school day games going on here. At home at least. They don't have what the road ones are, but at least at home, I know Sioux City. The 21st of May is one. I thought I saw it. Kansas City, June 26th at noon is one. I don't know how I feel. I don't mind the Sunday ones being at 2, but I really wish they might be at 4. And the Saturday ones being at like 6 instead of 4. That's just me personally. I would like to see the games at like 6:30 instead of 6:45. 6:45 is just an odd number, for me. So yeah, I mean the schedule looks. I mean what has been given to the RailCats and looking around and seeing. Obviously the big ones to look for are the Cleburne games. I know we play Cleburne away June 4th through the 8th, and then we see Cleburne not until late in August, the 13th through the 17th, the 13th through the 18th, and in June it's 4th to the 9th. So that's a big one to keep in mind, that I will enjoy the luxury of that one. I just love those series just because it's a long time, and you get to see them. It looks like we played Lake Country 7 times, it looks like here, at home, at the home opener, and we have 4 away with them on that portion of it. But yeah, I mean I can digest the schedule more as well, but I just kind of looking at it overall kind of insight to what we have going on here. So especially when the promotional schedule comes out, that's really dive deep into that one. All-Star break in Kansas City, I like it. I think it's easier to persuade my wife to go to Kansas City than it would be, maybe like Sioux Falls. I really think it's probably going to be a main rotation, probably through Chicago, Milwaukee, Kansas City, maybe King County would be another one. I just looking at the other markets, it's going to be hard to do in Winnipeg would be cool. I think Winnipeg would be difficult to do, just because some people may not have their visas all together, but which I don't understand that one either, is why people, I don't understand the visa stuff like that, how that all kind of works itself out, if it could be just late knowing that they're, but I just, if you're in baseball, I would just assume that, if you want to play in America, that you should probably have your visa for Canada. But that could just be because I'm an arrogant American. I don't know how that one works. But yeah, I think not too terrible. There's some games to look forward to. Obviously, Kansas City is always a good one because they're reigning champs. The Chicago one's a good one. King County should be, Lake Country should be a good one. Obviously, the home opener is the 17th against Lake Country on a Friday. And it looks like they kind of took my idea of the Friday, starting the season on a Friday instead of a Thursday for home openers, but that's beside the point. It doesn't look like there's a lot of off days, from like the league itself. It looks like Mondays are still going to be a handful of those. Like, this is where everyone's gonna be off, which again kind of sucks because I really like to watch other teams play, and when you're only watching the one team and they all kind of start at the same time, you don't get that that diversity to see other teams as well. But yeah, it should be a good season. I'm gonna enjoy the rest of the off season. I'm gonna enjoy my hockey because the hockey's great right now. There's a lot of hockey to watch. Kind of get my mind off of baseball, but I'm still kind of thinking about baseball and what's going on in that realm of things. I have reached out to Anthony to get an interview with him. Haven't heard anything from him. If I don't hear anything him by the end of the by the end of next week, I'll probably reach out to Lamar Rogers, because my thing is that I want to be able to take the right avenues, and that would be the right avenue is to kind of go to Anthony. Go to Anthony for Lamar Rogers, but 2, maybe get a hold of the owner as well. I think that would be interesting to have him on and get his insight. But I really want to get Anthony on just to get the day-to-day operations. So we'll see how it goes. I know it's the off season, so I'm not gonna stress out about it, because he might be gone for a couple weeks. He might be gone for a month. I don't know how that stuff works, especially being the off season. So we'll just kind of play it day by day. I'll try to keep everyone updated as much as possible. I try to look after work every day, but sometimes I get caught up in the emotions of not having baseball on, and not always getting alerts that something goes on. That's what happened with the November 1st ones. RailCats and the American Association started tweeting. I went, oh crap, they're starting to sign people. I should probably start looking at this stuff. So I'll try to keep a better eye on that stuff, and not necessarily that I want to be like the first person to do it, but just to have the ability to put it out. Because sometimes I know American Association doesn't put it out until like later that night, and the RailCats wait until they write an article about all the stuff. So I just want to make sure that I get all of the everything out there for the fans to kind of start to marinate in the new players that come in. I don't know why I'm in an obsession with marinate right now, but I am. I'm cooking a bunch of stuff with marinade in it too, but that's beside the point. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for this podcast. I think I'm gonna start releasing the podcast on Sundays instead of Fridays, to kind of give it the full week of all the players to come in and see what the signings are like, and then Sunday to kind of maybe officially have everything in order, and then start a new week from there. So yeah, if you enjoyed this lovely long podcast, I do appreciate you sticking around the entire thing. Just over an hour and 6 minutes, almost at 110 mark. I know it's been a while since I had that kind of, or I've talked that long for that much. So I appreciate that. I know that the setup may be a little bit different. It might not be different for you guys, but it's different for me on my end. It kind of ruins what I kind of want to get done for the rest of the offseason, but that is what it is. It's going to be fine. So if you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at RailCats Talk Podcast. Spotify, most of the platforms on the what's the word I'm looking for? Podcast platforms, most of there, but mostly on YouTube. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening, whenever you're watching this, and go Cats.
The 0-2. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Wrap this one up in green and white.